Assessment. What role does assessment play in the instructional shift? Obviously, the ability to look at a piece of text holistically and authentically analyze text to reach a deeper understanding is not one that students will master within a week or two, unlike discrete skill-based instruction. So how do we fairly assess kids during the process in which they are looking at text authentically and deeply again and again and again? Another and possibly even more difficult question might be, how do we assign grades to kids in reading when we are teaching kids in this manner?
All right, this is a great question. If you give the kid a cold text that they've never seen before, and you have some standards-based questions that you use to assess the child, as I said earlier, if they fail, you don't know why they failed. If you give a kid grade level complex text, you've got plenty of kids in your class who can't read grade level complex text. It doesn't matter that they know all the standards. They're not going to be able to demonstrate that knowledge of the standards to you because they can't deal with the complex text. They can't process the long sentences, there's too many words they don't know, or the topic is too unfamiliar. So what do you do if you want to measure how the kids are mastering the standards? The exemplars. You do an exemplar. You do a lesson just like our close reading exemplars. That eliminates all these other potentially confounding variables. If a kid has read a text for 3 or 4 days, let's say they've read the Feynman text for 3 or 4 days, then you give them an assessment based like the culminating assessment on Feynman. By the way, on our website, we're going to have assessments just like this. They're already there. I forgot what they're called, but they're there. You could find them somewhere. And Feynman is one of them that just went online. And in that case, if you ask the kid a series of standards-based questions after they've spent a week with the text, then familiarity with the topic is not an issue. Vocabulary is not an issue. You've asked 10 vocabulary questions. You've talked about 15 vocabulary words. Vocabulary is not an issue. Fluency is not an issue. The text has been read 3 or 4 times. At that point, if you ask questions about Standard 3, how one part of the text relates to another, and the kid doesn't get it, then you can make a solid claim that that child does not understand the standard. That's the only way you can, with validity, measure a standard. Because otherwise, you have no reason, you have no way to know what is causing the failure of the student to succeed with that standard or standards. So if you want to measure the standards, do an exemplar, close reading type of lesson, and at the end, design a culminating assignment and or series of questions to assess the standards you want to assess for that lesson. And then grade them the way you would for any test. Make a rubric, if you like rubrics, for what's an A, what's a B, or what's a 90, what's an 80, and give the kid a real grade. Because then you can really bear down on it and say, look at the questions we did that showed how this part of the Feynman text connected to this. You couldn't make that connection. Then you know that the kid failed to, you're talking to him about something that he should be able to understand, as opposed to the other situation where he understands the connections, but he can't do it in a cold text, a cold complex text that he hasn't seen before. So the answer is close reading exemplars with a culminating assignment or culminating assessment is the best way to truly measure standards acquisition, and then grade it the way you always grade any system that you have.